Excellent. Thanks, Alisa.
Okay, you're welcome. Because it's my hope that I'll be able to post this recording on the New York State AHPERD website that has resources for all the sections, but I would post it in the higher ed section. So if people couldn't be a part of the call, they can listen. As we go through today, we basically have 4 main discussion questions that I sent out to you in the agenda that we will be going through. We're going to keep an eye on the time because we want to respect everybody's time. But in terms of responding, what we would like for you to do is to raise your hand if you have something, you know, using the raise hand function. If you have something to say, or we can, you can ask questions through the chat function, and we will address the questions that you ask. And Clancy and I are co-facilitating this. So bear with us. It's my first time facilitating this type of a Zoom meeting. So that's how we will proceed. Clancy, you have anything you want to add before I go to the announcements?
Yeah, sure. You know, just basically this idea stemmed from Alisa and myself from a meeting a few weeks ago. The faculty from Canada, PEAT programs, got together to discuss the current situation. And I saw that they were getting together, and I reached out to a couple of colleagues and asked if I could jump in, and I did so, and found it quite interesting. And that nationwide discussion in Canada prompted a group out of the U.S. to do the same thing, which some of us attended. I think it was about 2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago that was. So the Canadian one was about 3 weeks ago. And that's what got Alisa and I talking and chatting about the idea of potentially doing something for New York State. That's kind of where we are right now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I just have one announcement to please encourage you to let other people know in higher ed as well, but to encourage you to look at the resources on the New York State AHPERD page. There are higher education resources available that have been put on that page. And I have asked in my last email, news blast, whatever, that if you have resources that you would like to have put on that page for other higher ed professionals, please send them to me, and I will send them to Jessica so she can put them on. Some people have sent things, so that will continue to evolve, but please check out that resource on New York State AHPERD webpage.
Awesome.
Okay.
One quick thing too, we have the raise your hand feature in Zoom that you can use, which will tell us who has a question, and we'll try to go by order. You can also kind of wave in front of the camera, and we'll try to get you. And, again, just be patient with Alisa and I as we try to navigate this. Awesome.
Okay, so Clancy, you're going to do the polling questions to start?
Sure. Yes. So I'm going to turn on a poll for you now. Should take you a couple seconds to do. Really easy binary questions. It should be on right now. And just give me a thumbs up when you're done, and that way we can. Oh, great. Okay, excellent.
We got 10 of 16, 12 of 16. You see it on top?
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
3 people, 2 people left.
Good job, Sean, with the thumbs up and green. I like that. Well done.
Okay.
Okay, well, we have 14 of 16 who've completed. We'll give you a couple more seconds, and we'll move on from there. maybe I'll keep this going in case we have a couple of late additions, Alisa, so I can probably run in the background, and then
Okay.
we can see the results anyway for now. That should prompt our discussion.
Okay. All right. I'm going to minimize it off my screen.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to get started with our discussion questions. The polling relates to the discussion questions. So the first question, go ahead, Clancy.
I can read you the results. So the first
Okay.
question right now we had, does the current crisis present more opportunity or obstacles? And opportunities at 43%, respondents, and then 64% obstacles, 9 respondents.
Okay, and so our first discussion question has to do with that polling question. And that first question is, what are the opportunities and threats or obstacles that the pandemic poses to PEAT, HEAT, and other health and wellness programs in higher education? So if you have a comment or you want to talk about it, just use the raise hand feature, or raise your hand, or put it in the chat if you have questions. So opening it up for discussion. Mara.
Mara's raised her hand, and then I see Sherry next.
Yeah, I'm keeping track. I got Sherry after Mara.
It was just interesting because we got an email today as an update, and it seems like the biggest obstacle and problem is worrying about, students enrolled in the university and the drop that's going to be, and that pushes a bigger problem of freezing on hires and the possible letting go of, I'm assuming, hourly or staff people. And, they really want us to try to recruit students, but all of the numbers are showing down right now. I don't remember what the percentage was, but, I'm seeing it as an obstacle because we're trying to start a couple of new things. One is a nutrition program, and, we might not have the ability to even do that, so all of these things could get cut short. So I'm just seeing that as, we're going to be skimping and cutting corners, and our dean doesn't know any budget information, and we just don't know where we're going to stand.
Okay. All right, Sherry?
Yeah, just aside from the budget aspects of that, I've been dealing with student teaching and field experience situations this semester, and just the uncertainty of whether or not we'll be online in the fall, and then having to replicate what we're doing for student teaching and field experience. It's just not, it's something that we can't really sustain, and we're not going to be providing our students with real authentic opportunities if they're having to do online assessments, online analysis of different videos, things like that. And it's definitely an obstacle when it comes to offering our students the very best opportunities for getting their feet wet in the field.
Okay. Other comments? Amari?
All right, go ahead.
Can't hear you.
Go ahead. Come on. There we go. There we go, Mari. Go for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hi, Mari.
I was actually going to answer both.
Okay.
I think there are certainly obstacles, but also this is an opportunity for us to think outside the box. If we have a situation in the future which is similar, we're going to be prepared, to come with a different alternative or how to do physical education classes online. I think the biggest obstacle definitely is field experience and activity classes. So, but I think my answer will be both.
Okay. Other comments, other thoughts? Paul?
I have a couple graduate students that are looking to take online classes because our summer 1 and our summer 2 classes are online. So they're in different parts of the country, and so they're planning on moving back to Long Island. So this affords them the opportunity to do that. And a second opportunity is the university has allowed, as the tuition has gone down, and so a lot of the graduate students in our master's program are taking summer courses, especially the undergraduate ones, which are 50% off. And so there's a lot of our students taking summer classes. The big thing is right now, I have a whole list of people that haven't registered for the fall. And that's kind of like Mara was saying, since those are not registered, you know, people are kind of like, the university people are like doing modeling and stuff like that. And so they're like all these different scenarios.
Okay, all right. Raj?
I see Raj, yep.
One of the things that's happening here at Ithaca College is the numbers. The numbers are not looking good. The incoming class, significant drop. And the institution is downsizing staff and faculty. And they have offered faculty one-time package to do early retirement. They've asked faculty to take a salary cut. So it is pretty drastic. They've also asked, they're also looking into combining programs and eliminating programs. So I see it as an obstacle because, you know, programs that don't have enough students will be eliminated. And, you know, we are on the chopping block, so to speak. So it is frightening and scary.
So can I follow up and ask you a question, Raj?
Yeah.
So when you're saying you're on the chopping block, PE and health at Ithaca is on the chopping block?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Wow. Other thoughts and comments regarding obstacles or opportunity? Well, one thing that I wanted to add in the Tim's got his hand up. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just for anybody that doesn't know me or Megan, we're from Utica College, our physical education program there. So and to follow up on Raj's comments, we just got what I would call a pretty cryptic message from our, and sinister message from our president yesterday that just said, essentially be ready for some painful cuts going forward. There were no specific programs or positions or anything like that, but you know, hearing conversations about hiring freezes and salary freezes and cuts and everything else, I'm sure we're going to see more of that too.
Okay, thanks.
Other
comments? Hands up. Mara? Doug,
I just wanted to follow up one thing that Sherry was talking about, you know, with the field work, what we're experiencing. I'm experiencing very similar things. Like, it's just really putting a lot of time into finding meaningful things to have, you know, the students do in lieu of hands-on experience, which it's very hard, you know, but this semester, at least, our students were able to get half of their experience in. Hours weren't an issue for the state, you know, and moving forward and thinking about the fact that there could be no actual contact with children in field work or student teaching experiences, you know, I'm very nervous about the quality of teachers that we're going to be putting out. I think the great will still be great. And I think that real learning curve where they get better with experience is going to really hurt us.
Okay, Doug?
I think we have Gail who's raised her hand, and just before Gail, Matt Madden added, it looks like a 10 to 15% budget cut from Cortland. And Laura Blitzer, welcome Laura as well. Brooklyn's looking at 25% reduction in courses offered for the fall. No word versus live and live versus remote, excuse me. And just to add to that point as well, Alisa and I were chatting several times this last 2 weeks, and I think she shared with me that is it Massachusetts that's already made the decision, the state of Mass? Is it in higher ed and K through 12 or just higher ed?
Higher ed's all online
In the fall.
in the fall.
So yeah, so it's interesting for sure. So go ahead, Gail. I can unmute you, and please take her away.
Okay, two things. First, I just wanted to comment because everyone was contributing information from your colleges on budget, and I just left a poorly run Board of Trustee meeting. Wasn't this organized? And at Niagara Community College, I know that there's not all SUNY schools here. There's only a few SUNY schools. The community colleges are SUNY, but yesterday at noon, SUNY asked for colleges to present a base budget, a budget where what the impact would be with a 10% budget reduction, and then a 25% budget reduction. We were told at the meeting, they just emailed to all faculty asking us to take this semester, this academic year, 3-day unpaid furlough for all faculty. Next year, a 5-day unpaid furlough. For us to turn back, we had a 1.8% raise that was approved in our contract. They're asking us to forego our raises, and a number of other things. And in addition, at the end of the statement to the board, they said that they will be laying faculty off. So this is with our college planning on a 12% reduction in enrollment. I've got many issues and concerns as a community college and an expensive community college. I think there's opportunities for students that are local to stay local just in the fall. I think those colleges that are moving entirely online are in the right market. I know at our college, the online classes are the very first ones to fill, and particularly in this environment where individuals are nervous and will be nervous in the fall of social distancing and have that as a concern. I know in our discipline that's difficult. So then I'll shift to the second part, which I think are opportunities. This past year, I was a recipient of a Ralph C. Wilson Jr. grant, where we're combining volleyball program with 5th grade girls. It's called Girl Power, with not just our physical education, but our human service students and so on, to go in first half of the semester, recruit the girls, talk to them, 40 at each school, girls, and about empowerment, anti-bullying, teamwork, lessons. And then the second 6 weeks, it's twice a week volleyball training with a master coach and our phys ed majors facilitating that. We ran it in the fall, and honestly, it was going to be a national model. It couldn't have gone better. So this was a big slap in the face to have this occur. So what we immediately did was ramp up our social media. We just now have finished creating a Facebook site, creating Instagram, creating various social network sites. And what we're planning to do is create challenges. We can't add the new kids in yet, but the 120 that we affected in the fall, we're going to begin to set up challenges on Mondays where we're going to demonstrate a skill, an achievement, a behavioral concept we want them to achieve, and they're going to keep score of themselves in a system and post. The biggest concern is privacy with this. Creating, having sign-offs from parents and creating channels that are completely private. It's only amongst our groups, but just wanted to say, I'm willing to share that as we get it kicked off. It's only been a couple weeks. We're in planning because we're anticipating. I can't imagine them allowing us to have 40 kids, 40 fifth graders in a gym in September when they're not sure about the social distancing. But those are just updates of we're trying to work around this and make it an opportunity.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have any comments on that?
Alisa, I noticed we have a couple of new additions to the meeting. Welcome, Helena. Please complete the poll if you can. It's nice to see you. And we're just talking about obstacles versus opportunities given the current situation. So if any of you want to add our late additions, that would be great. I want to
add something, but I also want to ask a question.
Sure.
Katie, what's going on in health education, health teacher education?
I'm not too sure because I'm not in contact with anyone in the teacher ed program. So the only program we have in the SUNY is Cortland. So I haven't heard anything.
Helena or Matt, do you have any information about health teacher education at Cortland? No.
I think I'm sorry.
Yep. No. Matt
This is Matt. Not a ton. I would have to speak with Chris Paskey. But with that said, the program's quite small, so I'm not sure. It wouldn't be business as usual.
Okay. All right. Katie, you're saying something? Katie?
Yeah, I do know that Brockport's online program is doing well. Well, yeah, you would know that.
I know that.
Yeah, I knew that they were turning people away because they were able to have some quality, and
the enrollments are doing really well in that. So, it's interesting what's going to happen though, just like everybody's been talking about. One of the opportunities that I wanted to kind of throw out there that I've kind of seen in this, having to teach online and the notion of one of the things I struggle with as a professor is trying to get my teacher candidates to really have a handle on, well, how do you teach students to create a health-related fitness program in PE that's not just fitness testing? And the opportunity that I kind of see on this is the idea of what if we were able to help create modules where we could use the online learning as a flipped classroom when we are able to get back into the gym. So where they actually have online modules where we could teach them how to create a health-related fitness plan and maybe address some of the content that our standards have within them, but we aren't always able to address it in a really quality way in physical education. So I kind of, with Amari said, think outside the box. I think there are some opportunities for us to use, a flipped classroom or remote instruction to have them do certain modules around things like developing a health-related fitness plan or developing a skill-related fitness plan to improve in a sport. So just one idea I was thinking about. Anybody else have any other thoughts on opportunities or threats before we move on? Helena.
Go ahead, Helena.
I don't know if this was said, I apologize. Like Matt mentioned, one meeting went a little bit over time. We offer a technology course in our graduate program, but not in our undergraduate program. And I have heard from many folks that maybe this is an opportunity to revisit the notion of embedding, if at all possible, looking at how we embed technology into our PEAT programs. I don't know if this was mentioned.
No, that hasn't been mentioned specifically, but I think it's a really good idea, particularly when we're talking about some of these ideas with flipped classrooms. I know at Brockport, we have a technology and PE class, but it's an elective. It's not one that everybody has to take. But I don't think they are doing those types of things like you would probably think about doing in it, making it more of a pedagogical technology type of class.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm saying this is because some of the students who took the technology course are current teachers. And
Right.
they're like, thank goodness you told me to make a tutorial about this. I wouldn't even know how to do this online. And then I
Right.
started thinking, towards our student teachers right now who are supposed to create these experiences online, and I haven't taught them how to do that at all. And so I feel like that's our job, is to try to facilitate the possibilities to, yeah, if even maybe it's not only for disasters, maybe it could be just a different tool, and maybe this opens up the door to see where can we embed this, or is there room to make a course related to embedding appropriate technology to enhance learning into our program.
Thanks. I think that's a really good thought, and I think that it might deserve more discussion, because I think there's an opportunity to really enhance the status of physical education in schools as an opportunity if we were able to teach some of this other content and embed it through technology, that it might really make a difference in our profession. So it's just something for us to think about. Hi, Rhonda. I see Rhonda.
Thanks for coming.
Rhonda's here. So I'm going to move on to the next question.
Alisa, can I just add one more quick thing? Rhonda, we've been talking about obstacles and opportunities with this current situation. So feel free to think about that. And if you want to add a little bit in a couple seconds, that'd be great. One thing that I wanted to bring up just in terms of higher ed as well is just the evaluation and tenure and promotion process. I can tell you at Canisius, our tenure track faculty have been contacted to offer a year of reciprocity, if you will, or extension for those that are up for tenure in this coming year. And that's up to the faculty member individually to make that decision. And then all faculty have the option to not include course evaluations in their upcoming progress report for this year as well. So
same.
Pardon me?
Same.
Same
Yep.
here. Okay.
Hamptonville, 100% on both tenure, and the dean still gets to see the student evaluations, but no names are going to be there, which is kind of crazy, but it's all right.
Okay. So just something to share.
All right, so I think we'll move on to the second question.
Can I, sorry, can I ask something? I got here a little bit late, so apologies if this was covered. Did anybody speak to the reopenings of public schools? I'm in New York City, where, you know, the tensions are running incredibly high, as everybody's aware. And it's, you know, filtering down to all levels of education. I just saw today the governor seems to be indicating that Western New York may be one of those phased openings. I don't know the reality of that, but you know, the school systems here are going to be very challenged to open in fall because social distancing is impossible. You know, it's physically impossible so far. So I just wondered, does anybody have any perspective of that? And if you've covered it already, I'd be happy to go. You know.
Laura, I live in Western, as you know, I live in Western New York, and the governor was in Buffalo today doing his thing. And then this afternoon, and Bob Duffy, who used to be the lieutenant governor, I think, he's in charge of the Finger Lakes reopening, whatever that's going to look like. But then our public health commissioner for Monroe County, which is where Rochester is, Clancy, you're in Erie, right, Clancy? Or Niagara?
Well, Canisius is in Erie, but I live in Niagara County, so I represent both counties in Western.
And so what our Michael Mendoza, who is our Monroe County Health Commissioner, he was saying, you know, schools, because of the fact that it doesn't seem to impact children that much, you know, he doesn't know what they're going to do, but he would open schools before he would open Frontier Field, which is our AAA baseball team. But my take is that the schools are not going to open, at least this year. But they're talking about soft openings of other things, but our health commissioner said that we are in, what do you call it? We're in that deceleration, but the other piece is that he projects that more than 75% of the people in our county have not been exposed to it. And that creates a lot of other issues because we don't, he's talking about herd immunity and he has to develop herd immunity, and nothing's going to open fast at all until we have herd immunity or a vaccine. So it's, even here, it's kind of up in the air. I mean, we have counties here that have more, have very few people, but they're having a lot of deaths. I mean, Steuben County is around here in the south of here, and they are having a huge, like they have, I think they have close to 100 deaths, and it's this little tiny county. So my take is the schools here are probably not going to open until, the rest of this year.
Well, what, to add to that, being in Western New York with like Alisa and Gail and others, but what parent is going to send their children back to school right now? I just don't, I don't see it happening, but that's just me.
And we are going to kind of talk about that social distancing thing in PE and public schools, Laura. It's coming up on another question. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So we'll move on. So the second question is, what direction should PETE, HEAT, and other health and wellness programs in higher education take to move forward during and after the pandemic? And this is kind of an open-ended question because several people, Mara, Sherry, several people have brought up the issues with field experience. We brought up the issues of, are the schools going to open? We brought up ideas around technology. So what direction, what ideas do you have? Where do you think we should go? What should we take to move forward during, after the pandemic? And I know for some and for all of us, because, what Gail described for at her junior college, I think all of us are facing cuts. Raj talked about it. So, a lot of us are really concerned about just the survival of programs and things like that. But what direction, what ideas do you have? What are some concrete things that you think we can do to maybe address some of these things? Raj.
What we are doing currently with our student teachers is, since they can't go to the schools, so we have set up virtual platforms where they hook up with their cooperating teachers, and then they are doing virtual lessons with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it is working in a way, but it's not the same kind of experience that they get in the schools.
Right.
But at least, they are out there talking to the kids, interacting with the kids virtually, and doing their lessons that way.
Okay. And when you said, Raj, when you said a virtual platform, what are they using? Are they using Zoom? Are they?
They're using Zoom, yeah.
Okay.
The cooperating teachers set it up for them.
Okay.
So they work very closely with their cooperating teachers.
Okay. Other ideas or thoughts about direction? Helena.
Oh, Helena's got her, yeah.
I'm just wondering if moving forward, if we do stay closed or not, like what kind of flexibility is going to be given to programs? Because, for example, I can see a real need on continuing a fitness class that is online to encourage our PETE students to stay active at home, and encourage, how do you do that from home? Versus will they be able to say, well, we're going to move the team sports class to when this is over, versus we're going to add some other classes that we can do in this fashion? Or are we just going to do business as usual and putting everything online? I think it's an opportunity, but I don't know if if we would be able to do that. If we'd be, how much flexibility, like some schools are going towards like cutting it so they have a 2-week, I've heard that, so they're cutting the semester up in case it opens up mid-semester, to try to finish, like do lesser courses, but do like intense courses and have students focus on a few courses that can go online, and then you know, do some other courses in the hope maybe it'll open. But that, like, I'm thinking about what, like, we, you know, are we thinking about this as we have to be somewhat proactive? Are we able to be proactive in what would our program look like if it's all online? Can we rethink some things? Do we have time to rethink some things? Can we readjust and be flexible? Those are my questions that pop up.
Okay. Kevin.
Kevin.
Clancy, do you have?
All right, there it is. All right. Yeah, kind of, I guess, building on some of the other things, I know that, you know, we oftentimes deal with a perception problem with families and parents not knowing what's going on in the phys ed classroom. So bringing phys ed or physical activity to them could be an opportunity. I know that, you know, for instance, a couple of my kids are doing their travel sports coaches are running practices through Zoom right now in the backyard. And I know that the parents are having a positive reaction to the fact that they're trying something. Granted, they're motivated by trying not to ask us for refunds on the money that we paid them, so I understand it's a different motivation here. But there's a positive opinion that this activity is being brought to them, and it kind of builds on something that Alisa said earlier about modules. And it's one thing to do these training sessions or to, you know, have them document physical activity. The idea of fitness education with assessment or with activity as part of it and bringing that into the homes is something that, you know, was exciting when you first said that, and kind of seeing, okay, what does that look like? What is the cognitive component which could be combined with the activity component, which is where we bring in the technology, some of which Helena was talking about. And I do have a feeling, as what happened with APPR and teacher evaluation, as is what's happened, you know, very often, the public schools are going to look to us to the fall to provide these answers. And that might be the best opportunity that we have, because that's where we get our future students from. If we can be the people providing solutions for, it is not, you know, my hope that in the fall we are online. I agree with what Mara said. I don't think our program is as effective if we don't have those experiences with students in a hands-on environment. However, these sessions and the session that a lot of us were at, the national session, you know, a week or so ago, I think it is an opportunity to combine a lot of the things. It seems like with each person who speaks, I don't know, another, you know, piece of the puzzle is kind of coming out. This is what it could look like if we need to provide, you know, a new type.
Okay, other comments about the direction or ideas you have? Any other, Rhonda?
Yeah, I've been very interested to talk with my practicing teachers that are some of them also my adjuncts, and I was really taken back by their fear that we're actually going to cut ourselves in the throat, and there's no other way to say it. Especially people who, not from the fitness realm so much, they felt quite pride that they could keep children physically fit by providing one-on-one. But anytime you start replacing us with something, they were very fearful. Don't push it so much. Make it look so easy that they can then just buy an online program and do away with physical education, because the cuts are amazing that some of these schools, districts are going to have. And my dance professor, who many of you know, is Cindy Parisi, and she's just adorable. And she said to me almost on the second week, she said, you know, I've killed myself putting together these very creative lessons for my K through 12 students, actually high school for her. She said, but every one of them, while they applauded me, said, is this something you could do in the future? So that maybe, and she said, I could just say, well, they're just getting me to retire. Can I be a half-time person versus a physical, you know, full-time? So I really started to listen to their fears about not doing it so well, because I'm like many of us, I'm very proud of all the technology. I love the things that Shape America's given us. But we have to make sure that we're promoting ourselves bigger than just fitness, and make sure people recognize that sports require live participation. I had to really send a stinger letter to my dean, because she was so angry at me, is no other way to say it, about not offering more online classes this summer. Usually I have 170 students taking, almost all of these students taking full loads in the summer. And now all of a sudden we're only offering 2 classes, sports nutrition and a basic science. And she said, what are you doing to the college? And I said, we will not risk having this happen to us down the road, to where you're saying, can't we just do everything online? And it was a series of me taking some real hits from 3 associate deans. And then I contacted the faculty and I said, guys, was I wrong? Am I too old school? Should we be offering biophysical online, dance online, you know, inclusion online? And every single one of them said, if you don't stick up for us, you're going to find that physical education programs are just dwindled right down. And every time you need your gymnasium or they want to use it instead, they'll say, hey, teach it online. So we're sticking to our guns, and I can only pray that in the fall it'll help. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Clancy, did you see anybody else with a hand up? Any other comments?
No, I did not. But there's a couple of interesting points that are being raised. Kate Cardenas has her hand up. Go ahead, Kate.
Can't hear her.
Just a sec. Trying to unmute you.
Okay, I got to unmute myself.
Go ahead. Go.
Right, we're having a similar issue in health in terms of there are certain sex ed programs, and tried to put them online, but all of the, they just end up being content, and all the skill pieces are lost when we go online.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Clancy, Gail has her hand up.
Go ahead, Gail.
Yeah, I just had a question to pose. And Kevin, I'm glad you presented that, how you were running the class, because you just gave me 2 new ideas. You know, I love this kind of dialogue, because you think you're thinking of everything, and then someone gives you a suggestion. And, you know, maybe I'll share that later, but you really did give me another idea. Our limitation that we have, and Rhonda, this is where I think it's going to help with the justification for traditional delivery, you know, physical education. 50% of our students at NCC come from Niagara Falls. They don't own computers at home. They are trying to complete their courses on their phone, submitting into Blackboard, trying to upload Word documents. I have found that our students are social media savvy, have no technology savvy. They don't know how to load documents. I mean, this has been a frightening challenge for them. We've done the best job we can at disseminating computers to students that are requesting them, but it's there's a couple things that I plan to survey, or I just asked our head of our academic student support center. She's going to be sending a survey out later. The students that are dropping, as the faculty are putting it, off the face of the earth, is it because they don't have access to technology? Libraries are closed that they normally would have gone to. The school, the school tech, and some are just, you know, they don't know where to go to access this equipment or how to ask. So I'm just wondering what your schools are doing, or have you surveyed the students to find if that's a barrier?
Good question.
We haven't surveyed students, but I know anecdotally that it's an issue for some students, because some students have anecdotally shared with me that, you know, they are struggling with having a cell phone. That's the only technology they have. And then the other thing is, we use Blackboard, and so we use Blackboard Collaborate, and it takes a lot of bandwidth, and students struggle with that platform using a cell phone. That's what I've gotten anecdotally. I don't know, does anybody else have comments about that?
Looks like
Yeah,
Helena does. Oh, Eddie has his hand, and then we'll go to, go ahead, Elena, and then we'll go to Eddie next. Go ahead.
Okay, we surveyed our students in the beginning and actually did a new survey this morning. Got about 100 or so replies in the beginning, and now, like I said, I just sent it, there's about 50, mainly to find out which students needed help, and specifically a device or Wi-Fi. So the students were flagged. There were about 5 the first time, and it was not anonymous, so that I could flag them down and I could actually provide and find those students who needed support. So I emailed them all. We were able to get one student who was actually local a laptop because he was doing everything from his phone. A lot of issues with Wi-Fi and finding quiet spaces to study. So I don't think that will change. A lot of them we can't help, like they're like, you can't help me because the Wi-Fi is bad because so many people are on it and we're in the boonies and it's just the way it is. So as far as providing them a way out to better Wi-Fi, it's very difficult. From the survey today, out of 50, I think 10 of them do not have reliable internet at home and have trouble. 3 of them were working on their phones out of the 50. So this one was anonymous. So maybe I'm getting more students and different students. Some people don't acknowledge that they need help too. So they don't reach out, which is tough for us. But it's a really important, it's really important to get to what your students need and try to help them as much as possible. And I do think that we're trying to do that.
Okay.
I think Eddie had his hand up, and then I believe Kate Cardina next.
Well, it's Michael Gossa here, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Michael. It says Eddie Mickey on your...
That's somebody's, yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
What was I? As Laura probably knows, at Brooklyn College, CUNY, we had 1 week, 5 days, I guess it was, off when they first shut us down, and we started up online, everyone. And then seeing that a lot of people were just didn't have the laptops, just didn't have the technology, they shut us down again and called it a recalibration period to catch up. And they gave out, I don't know how many it was, hundreds, thousands, literally, of laptops to students. Students had to come to the colleges, I guess, but that's what was happening to make it more accessible. And again, people are doing it on their phones, I understand that. So it's been a very interesting time. From my conversations with faculty, about 50%, anywhere from 40 to 60% of the students are showing up, so to speak, to classes. So it's interesting that there are even that many. I was surprised. So I don't know if that's CUNY-wide, but they realized, the chancellor, I guess, realized what the inaccessibility and also the hotspots were being increased. So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. And we've also given, CUNY's given, I don't know what has been happening at the rest of the colleges, but has anybody had their grading policy modified at all? We had, I'm sure it's probably statewide, pass, fail, credit, no credit, etc. Same idea.
Mara?
Oh, I think Kate is next, and then we'll go to Mara.
Okay.
In terms of the pass-fail, we have designated particular courses that the students can do pass-fail, but not all classes are that way. Buffalo State bought over 500 computers and mailed them out to people. so that everybody has one. And but I'm finding the engagement isn't so great, especially with my freshmen, because on Blackboard you can track all their engagement, whether they're watching the videos and when they get on, and they're just not very engaged.
Okay. Mira?
I was just going to answer the same thing about the pass fail. So our university is doing something similar. Also, I don't think it's for all classes, but we still have our standards. Like if you're like our department, if you need a C or better, to consider that a pass. You know, it's not like, ooh, I got a D- and it's still considered passing, it'll be a pass. But if they do get lower than that, they have an option for no credit. So it doesn't hurt their GPA on their transcript. So they've done that. And just in response to Michael, hi Michael, how you doing? Gossett, talking to Michael Gossett, or everybody, but I'm finding the opposite. I'm finding that the engagement level is down, I think, by the nature of just how we're doing it through Zoom. Just trying to get good conversation going and things like that. But I am finding the students are there. Some of them don't have video capabilities, or at least they're saying they don't have video capabilities. So you might not see them, but if that happens, like I keep diverting my questions to them to make sure they're still like on topic. But I'm not finding, like with my classes, I'm not finding, oh, I'm just going to skip today because it's online. That's it.
Okay. Any other comments or points?
If I could, we got Doug, and then I wanted to ask something real quick of Matt Madden. So Matt, regarding your comments regarding remote and bad, want to know more about that. So go ahead, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to Rhonda's point of hoping about back to the face-to-face. Inevitably, the schools are going to start to learn of the cost analysis, not just in physical education, but let's look at nursing. Let's look at all of the different programs that can't, and I hope all of us would agree, do not want us to go virtual with those, because I don't want that person working on me someday. Or I don't want a physical educator who only knows how to look at a video, analyzing my movements, my structure, or what's going on with that. I think we're learning from the opportunity, this pandemic, is that there is a technology issue that a lot of us didn't realize. The technology issue is we thought, oh, this new generation, they have the phones, they know, they can fix our little problems, they can do this on our phones. But when we get to learning and the needs that are necessary for learning, the computer, how to function, how to write, how to draw up a lesson plan, how to create the videos, they are way behind. And what's going to happen then is that's going to, if we're only offering online, going to cause some enrollment issues at different institutions, as we're probably already seeing. So the quick fix is say, let's offer everything online, make it easier for them. But in reality, that quick fix is going to hurt us tremendously in the future. That's just my 2 cents on that. I've been very adamant about that with our administration. Understandably, we are at the mercy of decision makers, above us, but I can't ever imagine a physical education, health education program that is run virtually. It's not something I would be for, and I hope most of you that grew up in this field would not be for as well.
Thanks, Doug. Matt, there's some great comments in the chat, and I apologize if we can't, and Lisa and I can't get to all of them, but one comment from Matt Madden is a message from different groups in higher ed that platforms that suggest to do remote teaching could be bad, but we love our students. Can you tell us more by that, Matt?
Sure. Doug just summed it up, really, that perspective. This is, I think, Helena could highlight this, but she told us right away, because she's kind of our tech person here at Cortland. She made it real clear that this is not online teaching or remote teaching or distance learning. This is a response to an emergency. And so to think that we're providing the service that ourselves or our students signed up for, that's just not the case. But as I put in the chat, you know, this would solve a lot of parking problems at Cortland. That seems to be on a ton of folks' radars. And so I'm just highlighting what folks have said on different social media accounts. The messaging is, I don't know if I buy it, but do this really bad, whatever this is, so that folks don't think that this is the new normal if it doesn't have to be. A couple other comments that I put on there. So Cortland has, I found it interesting, and maybe other institutions are doing this. We have the pass no credit option as well. And we try to highlight, to Mara's point, we try to highlight our C- block courses that students have to complete to continue program promotion. But the message that we got from New York State Ed, even from the credentialing or the certification standpoint, is there's not a ton of footing for that. So basically the students have until May 29th to choose, and the way that I picture it and the way that our faculty understand it is all the grades are posted roughly around May 20th, and then they can still choose that option. And then in our program and all education programs here at Cortland, the student can continue on as long as it's a pass. And then I'm going to hit mute.
Thanks, Matt.
Anybody else have anything before we move on to the next question? Anything anybody wants to add? Okay, so this next question, looking towards hoping to be face-to-face in the fall, how are we as higher ed professionals going to try to address social distancing in our academic classes in fall 2020, spring 2021? Anybody have any thoughts about that? Sherry.
So, you know, I think for Brockport, you know, our scheduling is really dictated. Our classes are dictated by the schedule, and the registrar assigns our classrooms. And so, unless there's something from the registrar saying that, you know, classes are going to be moved into a larger area, or classes are going to be capped at a certain number, I don't know how we're going to social distance within our major. I mean, our classrooms are so small and so tight as it is. They allow for 32 and 37 students in, depending on where you're at. You know, and registration's going on right now, and my classes are already full for the fall. So, you know, unless the registrar is going to move classes to a larger classrooms, you know, unfortunately, I don't see how we're going to be able to social distance. And I'm not sure if anybody else is in that boat as well. But we have really little control over what and where our classes meet.
Thanks, Sherry. I think Kate is up next. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, I'm worried about my classroom too, but even just walking in crowded hallways or the students being in the dorms. I mean, I don't know how we social distance in a communal situation like that.
Other comments about this?
I think this is why it's so tough, that it's almost like they have to choose yay or nay. Like it's an all or nothing thing until I don't know who brought it up, but I think Kevin, you know, until there's a vaccine or until there's, or maybe you, Alyssa, there's antibodies and there's testing and all that. That's what makes, you know, that's what I feel. But I think to your point before, when if it is all or nothing and they're saying, okay, it's obviously not going, we can't social distance, so we're staying online. The issues aren't necessarily going to go away, you know. So how do we make sure we keep we're teaching well? I don't. It's a tough thing, and I feel like we're just kind of pushing it forward. And you know, we're just going by dates of the governor, right? It's pushed forward again. It's pushed forward again. But how can we be proactive? And so some people have even mentioned, what about giving options to students, or maybe having like, then I'm thinking, like, even in the dorms, can we have one person per room? Is that even possible? Probably not. Can we have several people come to class and others don't? Like, half the class comes on Thursday and half the class comes on Tuesday, like all these things. And then how do you, that's almost like teaching double, because you're doing like online and like a hybrid format. Like, but in order, and I'm not saying that they can't work, but in order to do a model like that, we need, like, that needs to be proactively prepared. And that's a huge undertaking as well. So those are all options.
Okay, Meg had your hand up. Meg?
Yeah, the other thing to think about too is, you know, obviously with our programs, we have the activity courses where they're sharing equipment, they're sharing, you know, I mean, so that's a whole nother realm of when you're talking about social distancing, you know, because our program is so hands-on, you know, group activities, things like that, that's something else that's going to have to be taken into consideration as well.
Okay, other comments about this topic? Rhonda?
Rhonda, go ahead.
Yeah. I was on a large scale meeting with our president, vice president, provost, all of them. And they, like always, they never talk about the School of Education. But towards the end, after an hour and a half, I couldn't stand it anymore. So I brought up the point where are we going to allow athletics to come back in the fall? And you could see immediately they were kind of shaking their head. And then I told them something they didn't know, that 60% of our undergraduate students come to Manhattanville to play team sports. And they were so angry in just knowing it. And I said, if we can't allow a normal fall participation in athletics, in physical education, in dance, in theater, you might as well close down our college now or take a leave. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't become a superstar that day, but many people have been talking behind the scenes, because I said, quite frankly, why would you come to Manhattanville if you can't play sports when they might be playing sports in Pennsylvania? Because our league we're doing extremely well. We're like top this year. And I know we won't keep those athletes, and the coaches have all but said that. So it's a comment more than anything else, but it is something that I want them to know. If I'm going to have athletics back, then damn it, we better have physical education 100% back in those classrooms too. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Gail.
I just had a question. Somebody brought up a really important point about cleaning the surfaces of what we're going to be using in class. Is there any document or research that establishes the protocol for proper decontamination of equipment that we regularly use? Something that we could use as a researched reference to bring to our our colleges?
I don't know if there, I'm sure there is something. I mean, I'm thinking about guidance from the CDC. I mean, when we went online and in my school, you know, nursing's in my school, education, and, you know, I was having hard conversations with chairs about, we have to follow these CDC guidelines. Can you keep 6 feet of distance? And if somebody's in physical therapy is learning a new technique and the instructor has to demonstrate, well, no, you can't. And nursing has very strict protocols that, you know, that they use in a school of nursing. And yet, in terms of safety and in terms of disinfecting, and yet there was nothing that they're doing simulations. They're not, you know, they're not in classes. And so I don't know if there's anything that's research-based. My thought would be maybe to look to the CDC to see, and maybe that's a good thing that, you know, we can look at as this section, and I can try to look and see if I can find anything, because it is an issue. Because, you know, you don't want kids, you know, if Meg and I are playing badminton and Sherry and Mara are rotating in or something, they're gonna have to, those rackets are gonna have to be cleaned before I give my racket to Mara. You know, I mean, you have to think like that. So we can look into that. Clancy, you have any thoughts about that?
Well, a couple things. We'll call on Kate in a second. She's got her hand up, but just to add on to what you said, Alisa, I know that other parts of the world are looking at innovative models for K through 12. Helena mentioned some go to school one day, some go to school the other. I've heard situations where half days or grade levels at certain times, but at each and every instance, the rooms and the areas are going to have to be cleaned in our, and I don't know what that looks like or what that entails, but in our law enforcement as well, from what I understand, police officers that are changing duty in shifts, when the police officer starts the shift, they have to clean the car. But yeah, and then when they finish the shift, they have to clean the car as well. So they start with cleaning and they end with cleaning. And so I think you're right. I don't know what that will look like, but I think there are going to be provisions in place to try to help mitigate some of these issues. Go ahead, Kate.
Katie?
Sure. The CDC does have a list that I've seen, and they keep updating it with commercial products that will disinfect for COVID-19. So there is a list out there of disinfectants.
Okay. All right. Any other comments about, you know, this notion of social distancing if we are going back face to face? Any other comments? The one thing that, you know, I think about, you know, are there innovative models? But I also know that if your school has a union, we cannot have people teach like, okay, this half of the class comes in this day and then you reteach it, because you go from having, you know, a 9 credit load to an 18 credit load, or a 12 credit load to a 24 credit load, and you know that becomes a union issue. And so while I think that, you know, we do need to think outside the box, I think, you know, we have to be aware of you know, workload issues and work-life balance for faculty. So any other comments? Okay, so one of the polling questions that we had, Clancy, was institutions continuing with online instruction. You want to give us those results?
Yeah, so the question was, do we know if your institution is planning to remain online in the fall? The results right now of 19 polled, we have 0 that indicated that they're for certain that they are going to remain online. We have 2 out of the 19 that have indicated that they will not be online. And then we have 17 of the 19 that indicate that they're not sure yet if they're going to be online in the fall. So I guess I'm interested, just hearing this data, I'm interested in the two that indicated no. I'd like to learn more about how those institutions have made that decision, and feel free to share. Or if you have other comments regarding the question, please go ahead. Anyone? I myself didn't have a chance to vote. I don't know if Alisa, did you vote?
No.
I guess I didn't even think of that, but you and I didn't have a vote, but I would have been in the do not know yet, but I'm leaning towards, you know, the whispers and the feel and flavor that I'm getting is that we're going to be online in the fall. But right now, do not know. Alisa?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know what's happening with being online or not. I do know that I think it causes a lot of anxiety not knowing. I'll put that out there. Katie.
Kate, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Alisa if she knew, because being associate dean, I didn't know if you had more conversations than anybody else.
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I have a meeting tomorrow, but it's not about that, but it has more to do with looking at budget stuff, but I don't know anything about whether we'll be online or not. So sorry.
I know.
Michael has his hand up, alias Eddie Mickey. Gossett has his hand up. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Totally not confirmed or anything, but I heard second or third person, you might say. I heard a rumor the other day that CUNY just again leaning towards online. That's just what I heard from someone who heard from someone else. So you can't put much stock in that. But so just putting my a half a cent in there.
Okay, thanks.
Great. I think we have Sherry next. Go ahead, Sherry.
And then Helena.
Okay.
I think I would think for the SUNYs and CUNYs, it's going to be the governor making that decision. I mean, and you know, much the same way that he made the first decision was, you know, going online, you know, back in May or back in March, you know, before, and, you know, and tweeting that out before we'd even gotten notified that we're going to be going online. So I have a feeling, I mean, just my own thought is that, you know, he's been pausing New York at 2 week increments, a month increments. I have a feeling it'll be a last minute decision on his part going forward for the SUNYs and CUNYs. That's just my own inclination.
As I said, Sherry, somebody who told second or third person, so I'm not disagreeing with you. I hear you.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, I think it was Helena, and then we have someone else put their hand up, but has it gone back down again? But anyway, go ahead, Helena, and we'll find out the next person. Maybe it was Raj.
I'm wondering if, so Alisa, I know you don't know it, but are they at least talking about it? Like this is my, so you're shaking your head, so no, but this is what I'm concerned about is, unless they're going to come up with some creative ideas, many of the students may opt out of online education, and they have the right to do so, but how do we move forward, and how can we make sure that I keep going back to trying to be proactive, but maybe we can't, and how do we move forward as a faculty to try to use this time, because we are moving into May, June, July. If, you know, 3 months of in-betweens, what can we expect from faculty? How can we support them? How can we provide some leadership? You know, that's where I'm struggling with. I understand the 2 week increments. I totally get it. And I understand, Sherry, that's exactly what I think will happen, what you said. I think that it's going to come from the governor, and it's going to come late. But what can we do now, if anything? And are they actually talking about it up the top?
Thanks, Helena. Okay, I think Raj is up next. Go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, we had a faculty meeting this morning, and the chair told us to prepare ourselves to teach online in the fall.
Interesting. And Raj, what was the response from you and your faculty? What are the, I guess, what are the, what's the flavor of the response?
The chair is a public health person.
Okay.
So he's coming from the public health perspective. So I believe what he's saying. I think there is a chance that we're going to go online in the fall.
Right.
Michael had his hand up. Hi, Michael. You see Michael Norris, Clancy?
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm just saying hello, everybody.
Oh, hi, Michael.
Sorry, I just got out of class. Sorry.
Great.
Okay.
Welcome aboard. We have a poll here. If you can take a look at and try to do quickly, that would be great.
I did.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So anyone else regarding the possibility of moving to, does Helena have another point?
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, I think I always, I guess I'm pretty trusting it. I think people are talking about it. That's my perspective. I think they're talking about it, but I think it's going to be slow because it's more than just deciding to go online, or like there's so much involved. And just from the fears that I'm getting from the students about next semester and about their experiences this semester, the issues around online education aren't going to go away just because it's in the fall. And so this is a much, much bigger deal. So they're going to have to put in some plans, which takes time. But I'm sure that they're talking about it. At least I hope that they are, because it can't be as easy, Raj, as saying plan for it and hopefully go back online, because then we're going to be in the same boat with the same issues, and it cannot go that way for us. And I would hope that, like, I come back to that flexibility of our departments. Can we rearrange some classes? Can we do something about our structure to provide, even if it is online, you know, some courses are just not going to, like, think about all the student teachers. I mean, you know, we know what we're thinking about, what we're talking about. This is not going to be an easy decision. And so I think it's going to take some time and some planning.
I agree. I think that you and Sherry are right. I think in the end, it's probably going to come from the governor and the chancellor. I think that the notion of kind of as a section thinking about, well, what kind, if we did it, even if it was one institution who found themselves online, how could we as a section provide support for that institution and faculty at that institution? I also think that it becomes an issue, like what you're talking about, Helena, with when you think about, can we offer some things and not offer other things? And then that becomes an issue of time to degree, which is another issue around retention. And like you said, there's so many facets to it that are impacted by that decision. And I think we just have to, you know, as a section and as part of New York State AHPERD, keep having these conversations and maybe start to think about, you know, having a plan, coming up with some ideas to help facilitate within different departments. And just like Gail had said, you know, Kevin gave her an idea. So maybe we might be able to come up with some innovative ideas, some innovative things that we could use as higher ed professionals. So again, I think we just have to keep having conversations and thinking about what could help. Other comments? Clancy?
Raj, go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, you know, the bottom line is the decision has to be made at the institution level.
Mm-hmm.
If the institution is, you know, they make the decision to go online, we have to toe the line.
Right.
We can't get into the classrooms. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I can't even go into my office.
Yeah.
I can't go into my office. I have to ask for special permission, you know, from the dean.
Right.
And I've asked to even go and get a book from my office. The dean denied that.
Really? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't
Wow.
even get into my office, my own office.
Wow. That's something.
All right.
Well,
Go
You
ahead.
want to move on to the next question, Alisa?
Does anybody have any further comments on that?
The one thing that I want to add, and again, we know Sherry and Helena are spot on when it comes to these decisions, but if we are going to move forward with a potential plan for remote instruction, again, this is just my humble opinion. I get it. We can all certainly all decide why it has its problems, but if we want to move away from what Matt and Helena have discussed, which is, that we're in a crisis mode for instruction and pedagogy, if we can even call it that, then we need to make these decisions at institutions earlier for our professionals to then be able to plan to have some semblance of quality instruction in an online environment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next question, sub-question. So if schools do start, whenever they start preschool through 12th grade schools and conduct physical education classes, what are your thoughts on how that's going to look? Because I would assume that those schools and those classes are going to have to maintain some social distancing guidelines. So what do you think physical education in the schools will look like in this era where we have to maintain social distance? Do you have any ideas what it would look like? Sherry?
I hate to say it, but for those teachers that aren't terribly creative, I think we might be going back to kind of a military style calisthenic approach, to where, or at least spacing students out and having them in their own personal space, and then, doing the workout, doing the workout of the day or whatever they might be doing. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of kind of a military, I don't want to call it military style, because I think folks will be better than that. But I think it's going to be a lot of, working out in personal space and doing different activities that are where they can control that social distancing.
Okay, thanks. Other comments or other ideas? Other thoughts? Michael Norris.
One of the things they're doing around here is they're using the public television station to show or demonstrate different ways to engage students in physical education, physical activity. The challenge is going to be is how does that look, across curriculums, and how do we promote, a consistent curriculum if you use some kind of media like that? And I think your question was asking in schools, what does that look like? It's probably what Sherry was saying, is that there's going to be a lot of, I know a lot of our students are not comfortable coming back to campus that I've talked to when that happens. And so if that happens, then there's got to be a lot of parents and communities around the United States and in the state of New York that are probably not comfortable sending kids back to school. So our numbers are probably going to drop in our physical education classes, which means, what does that mean for physical educators in school districts when those numbers are dropping?
Right. Any other thoughts? I really don't have an answer. That's Clancy and I were talking about these questions, and we were like, it's something we should ask. Clancy?
Rhonda and then Michael Gossett.
I am thrilled with the conversation earlier today, just because I want to be able to go back and tell students the importance of having those disinfectants available to you. I'm going to be pushing more promotion of going back into the schools, and as well as in my own graduate classes, because I had a student yesterday, an alumni, who I hadn't heard from in 10 years. And I don't know how he still had my cell phone number, but he did. And he called me and he said, what should there's a meeting, Dr. Clemens, what do you think about phys ed? And I knew that he was basically fearful that it was going to be phased out or something in his particular charter school. And I said, if you're involved in a meeting, you need to go in there and talk about promoting the things that you can do for the school to save money, whether it be after school activities. You can create that. If it's online, you have to be the one that will volunteer to do it. In other words, I think we need to be extremely bright in our responses about, well, we've already thought about it as a group, and we're going to make sure that our equipment is cleaned according to the Center of Disease Control. And we've, looked at our intramural programs, and these are activities that could work in a small setting. I like this discussion today. This is enormously good for me. And anything that we come up with, I'm going to take back to my faculty as well. So I thank you. Simple, but not necessarily obvious. We're tired. I'm exhausted. I'm teaching 4 online classes to graduate students, and I can barely keep up with the emails on any given day. So I appreciate the ideas that I've heard today, and I'm writing them down. But I do think that if we can take these back to our college and university administrators and say, we've been in contact with other colleges, we agree that these kinds of things need to be done, it will show our strength in numbers. So I thank you all.
Thanks, Rhonda. I think we have Michael next, and then Raj after Michael.
Thanks, Clancy. In terms of physical education in the at home, what would be pros and cons of Zoom from the instructor from home, where we are, leading a class and having 20 boxes or whatever it is, for a class? It might not be possible if there's hundreds of people in the class, but what are pros and cons of teaching through Zoom like we are now, and seeing the students do things and perhaps say they're at home? I don't know. Is that, what anybody think of that at all? Thoughts of that?
I guess my question you're referring to is higher ed, right, Michael?
No, I think we're talking. I heard some people talking about what to do at home. It was kind of the last question, but I didn't hear the transition to this one. About social distancing and how to continue to teach if online.
In K through 12 PE.
Yes.
I mean, well, again, we still have accessibility as a major obstacle, right? How the children have access to Zoom. So that's certainly one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are definitely pros and cons, and that's something, that maybe we could work with, the secondary and elementary sections of New York State AHPERD to kind of get that information. What are the pros and cons of using Zoom? Because they're the ones who've been doing it. And our school-based teacher educators that are working with student teachers. I mean, we might be able to access some of that information. Raj,
and then Mara. Go ahead.
Colleagues, my question is, has anyone here lost a loved one or close to the family to COVID-19? Is anyone? Show a raise of hands. I have. My mother-in-law passed away last Monday of COVID-19. So we need to take care of our own health first. This is serious. This virus is very serious. This is why the CDC is putting out this alert so that we can be careful, and take care of ourselves rather than rushing through this and getting into the schools. It is this is something that is personal to me. I've seen it. I've seen my mother-in-law die.
It's sad.
I'm sorry for your loss, Raj.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mara and then Kevin.
I think I'm having a senior moment.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the?
Well, we can, why don't you think about it for a couple seconds?
Okay,
Kevin, and
thank
come
you.
back to you. Okay, go ahead,
Yeah,
Kevin.
thanks.
No problem.
Kevin, go ahead.
I'll unmute. There you go.
There, thanks. Yeah, sorry for your loss, Raj. In getting back to some of the, I guess, in talking about the fall, and I know I've been accused of being too optimistic by many people a lot of the time, but I'd rather be optimistic. If schools are open, it's likely that a decision has been made by people above us that they're comfortable with groups of kids on buses. They're comfortable with large groups of kids in cafeterias. They're comfortable with kids in hallways. They likely have approved sports, to go back to Rhonda's point from earlier. So I think that it would be unfair for them to be uncomfortable in certain things with physical education. The one kind of caveat or difference between sports and physical education is the element of choice. People are choosing in the public schools to play sports as compared to physical education. So where my mind went next is, would they give people the option? Are we headed to opt-out or waivers for physical education because of a fear? And if so, is that something we need to get in front of or be concerned with as we start looking forward? It's just what I was thinking about on that.
Thanks, Kevin.
thought.
Useful. We have a question from Helena, or maybe it was a comment from Helena regarding do programs want our student teachers as a result of the circumstances as well? Certainly a valid point. Mara, do you want to? Were you able to figure? You're good. Okay. I think is Michael. Michael, you got something? Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Raj, I also sorry for your loss. It reminds me, horrible, tough situation. Teaching online, not nearly, everyone's different. Had a student, I guess, what's today, Tuesday? I guess yesterday, Monday, online in class, and has everybody's weekend. And a student said to me, 20-year-old, said to me on lunch to the class, good, he's good, but his parents passed from it. And I was just stunned. After decades of teaching, you're not stunned, you're not caught off guard too often. And that just caught me off guard. And I had to take a moment and say, sorry if you're, so it's affecting everyone in different ways, obviously, but that was the first time I'd experienced something like that in the moment in real time. So it is very tough dealing with it as well as listening to it, I guess.
Thanks, Michael. Kevin's got another point.
Also, something Michael said earlier regarding like Zoom instruction and online instruction, and getting back again to what I've observed in watching my children participate in sports practices through Zoom. It's one of the downsides of online instruction or trying to teach physical activity is that these people are leading a class. They're not teaching individuals.
Right.
There's no corrective feedback. There's no specific feedback. There's general encouragement. They're following the scripted practice plan. But those modifications, and we all know the most effective teachers teach individuals, that's something that's really lost, especially as we shift toward teaching skill or strategy or trying to use an online medium for that type of instruction. So that was a fear of a shift moving forward I wanted to share.
Okay, Mara?
Well said, Kevin. Mara, go ahead.
My brain came back. It was related to the whole Zoom. Thanks, Matt. First of all, Raj, my condolences to you and Teresa and the family. I'm so sorry to hear that. There are a lot of our public schools here on Long Island that the schools are forbidding them to use platforms like Zoom for a lot of various reasons that we've all read in the news and seen, and that kind of platform. And one of the things that it just like kind of prompt me is, yeah, I feel like I'm getting pretty good at this Zoom and running my college classes, but I don't I think as we move ahead and trying to educate our PEAT students, you know, I'm worried that I won't have that kind of content knowledge to really give them good information about how to, you know, move these kind of things into a distant learning type of stuff. Especially if platforms change and, you know, one school allows this, but another school doesn't allow this. And, you know, it's just, that's my thoughts.
Thanks. We're going to move on to the last question. I appreciate everybody's comments, but I'm cognizant of the time. And this is, Clancy really is passionate about this last question. And so Clancy, what was the poll on the
Sure.
one about the ATSW?
So as you know, the state in an emergency response has brought back the ATSW as a potential substitute for the EdTPA. But you know, everything is still closed right now, so we don't even know how that will work, if it really will be a safety net or not. But it leads me to the bigger question. And I think I had sent out some information to our higher ed faculty in late first semester, late fall, or maybe December it was. I sent it to Michael for the prep council as well to be distributed. Some research and studies that came from AERA that questioned the potential bias and problems with the EdTPA. So that this got me certainly thinking, as Alisa brought up. But so the question was, should state ed's ATSW safeguard for the EdTPA be a permanent consideration for teacher certification in the state? And we're right in the middle here. We have 10 people who say yes and 10 people who say no. You know, just to give you some background and context, again, that those articles that I sent out, I've asked Michael to add it as a prep council discussion point moving forward, and in the fall for our prep council meeting. But the data that came from those two studies was alarming enough from a small faction of advocates in the state of New York to prompt NYS AHPERD to put a moratorium on the raising cut score of 38 this past year. So there is certainly some concern. And so my question to all of you is, if the ATSW is good enough for now, would it not be good enough for the future, or something else altogether? But given the potential issues with the EdTPA regarding bias.
So does anybody have any thoughts? We're kind of split down the middle. So, you know, why do some of you support the ATSW over the EdTPA and vice versa? What do you think? Any comments?
Mara.
Mara.
I just don't think that there is a comparison between those two exams. You know, one is looking at teaching the content area that you're teaching, and it's very specific to that and making you think along. And I'll start by saying that I'm not an EdTPA lover, you know, to start with, but I think honestly, I wouldn't want to see ATSW take the place of EdTPA. I'd rather see them just get rid of EdTPA and keep to the content specialty exams and doing that. I don't think that ATSW is going to give us any more information about our students' potential to teach and their content knowledge. You know, I think it's just another way to get money.
And that's a good point, Mara, and maybe I should have worded the question a little better, because I think certainly the EdTPA off the table gives some of these issues with bias, you know, would be another option. So maybe that should have been another option in the poll. Thanks, Mara.
Other thoughts? Sherry.
Sherry.
Can't hear her.
Go ahead. Just trying to unmute you, Sherry. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
So, you know, for the pandemic response, I mean, I think it was the appropriate choice to put something back just to so then students are being held accountable for teaching in general. But going forward, I think you know, I'm kind of inclined to agree with Mara because you know the ATSW has it had a 96 to a 98% pass rate. I mean, everybody was passing that test, and you know, whether they really studied or not. And so what is it really measuring? You know, and is it really indicative of what a student can do teaching wise, as far as being successful in the classroom? And so I think I would agree with Mara on that, and not have it be part of have the ATSW replace it going forward. But then the greater question is, would the state be okay with just having the 2 exams, the content specialty and the EAS? I mean, will they, you know, that's the big question, is if the state feels that there's enough accountability from those 2 exams to be, you know, to be able to make the determination on whether or not the candidate is going to be successful.
Okay, thanks. Raj? And Katie is next.
This is not the first article that was written on the reliability and validity of ATPA. There were 2 or 3 articles written in Educational Researcher too on questioning the reliability and validity of ATPA. If that be the case, if the ATPA is not reliable and valid, then, you know, students who pass and students who have failed ATPA, we're not doing them a service. We are doing them a disservice here. I mean, students who have failed ATPA could have been good teachers. We don't know. If it is not reliable and valid way to measure it, then, you know, we are doing a disservice.
Thanks, Raj. Katie? Clancy?
Yeah, I had lowered my hand, but that's okay. I just wanted to say that I do like parts of the EdTPA, the subject-specific parts, and if they could incorporate that into the ATSW. So I don't know. I have real concerns about the grading of the EdTPA as well. I don't think people might not have the expertise, or they aren't getting paid enough. It's a lot of problems with it.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments about the EdTPA, ATSW? Other comments? Raj again.
I mean, someone in if you're an examiner of EdTPA and you are in Idaho or some other place, and you're watching a tape from New York, in a city, New York, the context is so different.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the context, how can you assess? You can't assess the tape if you don't know the context.
Good point.
Very, very hard.
Very good point.
Well, and I think Gail's got her hand up, so we'll call on her in a second. But another thing that cannot be overlooked in this discussion, and Raj is right on, there are, I have a number of articles here that point to some of the issues and problems, and even some advocacy groups that are calling for issues when it comes to the EdTPA regarding culturally responsive approaches. But the other piece in all of this is the elephant in the room, if you will, the millions and millions of dollars being made by Pearson on this exam. So we certainly can't ignore that either. I mean, the research that Raj was pointing to regarding reliability and validity, and you know, there are serious questions that are being asked of Scale and Pearson that they're not responding to, and they're using different models and explanations that don't quite align. So Raj's point is well taken.
So Gail?
Hey, I have a 4 o'clock meeting. I just wanted to thank you, Alisa and Clancy. This was refreshing, you know, coming from these meetings all day that have been negative, no productivity, to even come out with, you know, Kevin, I was on this sidebar phone call with the director of the grant to say, okay, there's something else I'm implementing. I hope that we continue with this. These conversations, you know, fairly regularly up until our meeting in September, because this is, I think we need to stick together and share ideas. Raj, I'm so sorry for your loss. I just wanted to say that, and I really miss everybody. I can't wait to see you in September.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Gail.
Meg's got her hand up, and then Mara.
Yeah, I just have a question. Has anyone else heard anything about testing being done away with for this class altogether, like the content specialty test and everything?
Okay, Mara, go Mara, and then Sherry.
So what I've been told is that May 1st is the deadline, and that if the testing centers don't open by May 1st, the school has the ability to make a list and send that to state ed, and state ed will approve them. So that goes for the EdTPA, the EAS, and the CST. So we're running into that whole issue of, I mean, I haven't told students that. They don't know for sure, you know, with that. They do know about the ATSW as, you know, in lieu of the EdTPA. But that's what our person from the certification office told us. May 1st is that, and if it's not open, everybody who is, for Adelphi, anybody who is graduated either May 2020 or August 2020 will be exempt from all of them.
Okay, Sherry?
Mara pretty much summed it up.
Okay, all right, thanks. Laura?
Laura's got a question.
I just asked if everybody saw the March 30th EPP memo from the state. If you don't have it, I'll forward it to everybody. It speaks to what some of the dates Mara just mentioned, which we're sticking with, at least at Brooklyn, for students who are enrolled this semester. We have no clue if it's going to apply to fall semester students. But the waiving of the EdTPA, and since we aren't likely to hit the May 1st date of testing centers being open, the ATSW is going to be wiped away as well. So that's all contained in that memo. I realize March 30th seems like 300 days ago, but shall I forward that? I'd be glad to, if that seems helpful. Just nod.
Sure. Laura, if you want to send it to me, I can have it sent out by New York State AHPERD to everybody in this section.
Sure. I'll do that shortly. Be glad to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, we're coming up. Clancy, did you say
real quick? Thank you to Michael Norris he's resent the email that I had sent out, and it was just in the new year. My apologies. That included that article.
That's great.
So take a look at that when you get a chance. And I've asked Michael to add that to our agenda for the Prep Council. So I appreciate all of the comments and feedback today.
Okay, so it's 4 minutes to 4, so I just want to summarize and we can wrap up. We've talked about a lot of things, things that we're concerned about with enrollments, retaining students not having the technology they need. Talked about cleaning equipment and looking for some guidance regarding how we would handle that, making sure that we can do that. We talked about, the online piece a little bit more, the need for maybe innovative out of the box, to quote Amari and Helena, ideas. We've talked about several things, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I want to thank Clancy, my co-host, for doing this with me, and he did a great job. So thank you, because you know, between the two of us, I think we were keeping track of things, but I really appreciate his help and his guidance as president of New York State AHPERD. And I thank all of you for your time. I know our time is precious, and I just want to thank you all. And it seems that, you know, there's some interest in possibly doing this more often. And we will, you know, be able to set that up and be able to do it more often if the section wants to. I hope everybody stays well and stays safe. And Clancy, I'm going to let you wrap
No,
up.
thanks. Again, you know, give credit where credit is due. This was certainly Alisa's idea to put this together on behalf of New York State AHPERD, and again, you know, some efforts that have taken place at the national level, both in Canada and the U.S. So we're really grateful for our partners and giving us these ideas. And moving forward, I would love to do this again, and we certainly appreciate everyone's dedication and devotion to the profession. New York State is certainly in great hands.
And I'm more than happy that if you have questions or you have other topics that you would like to have discussed in this kind of forum, if you email them to me, I'm more than happy to utilize them as when we do this again. So keep that in mind. And Laura, thank you for sending that. I know it's coming in the future, but I'll make sure I get it out to everybody in this section. Anything else, Clancy?
Just a quick shout out to Kate Cardina for complimenting my tie. I appreciate that, Dr. Cardina. That was very nice of you. I just want to know wherever Amari is at, I want to be there. Just see that too. That would be great as well. Oh, and quick question to Kevin Mercier. Alisa has some French in her background. I'm a Canuck myself. We want to know, is it Mercier, pronounced Mercier, or do you pronounce it in a different way?
It should be Mercier, but we pronounce it Mercier.
Oh, Mercier.
See, we were saying it the right way, Clancy.
Yeah.
So you have no objections if we add a little bit of
it's
French culture
it's French,
to
yeah, French Canadian background. Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
That's great.
That's great. All right. Well, everybody have a good evening. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Be safe. Be well. Safe wishes to your families.
Great seeing you, Mara.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Clancy, stay on.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stop.